To me,
cool.
I can't fault with that.
But I wouldn't argue again. I wouldn't argue on the basis of military. What I'm saying is systematic denigration of a culture does not require guns or superior arms and weaponry. It can simply be.
Let me agree with you a bit. I'm being a bit serious.
Cool, right.
Let me agree with you a bit. Yes, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, what we are having is, in the Islamic context, it happened so gradually and over such a long period of time. When the jihad really came into force, a lot of the people were Muslim. Like Usman Dan Fodio, when the jihad came into, like when it became a real jihad, as we understand the meaning of the term, the people were already Muslim. They were just like lapsed, like.
No, but I'm going to disagree because the Saleh weren't Muslim. The Mossi resisted Islam. The Dogon had to move from wherever they was living and find a home in some hill and gully to protect
Chancellor Williams said.
Right?
Suppose the Dogon were always living in the Shakara escarpment.
But you have to give me evidence of that. But the fact of the matter is...
You have to give me evidence that they fled.
No, but that's it. No, but Uncle. The fact of the matter is that is their story. That is a story.
An Islamic cap. Right? Look what he's wearing. Let me stop. I can't. When I start being mischievous, I can't.
It's
stop.
open, Uncle. It's open.
I'm going to trouble the Igbo man just like.
When you're ready. My point is, Uncle. Yeah. And if we want to, the Dogon, for example, is an excellent example.
A very good example. Right? We can't say for sure that we know they were pushed there. We know they were in the Banjagara escarpment.
What we do know.
We can't say that for sure.
But what we do.
I know Chancellor Williams says this, but he supposes it. He doesn't factually say it. He supposes it.
But this is not just Chancellor Williams' assertion.
Okay, who says
there
that?
Are many historians. There are many historians, including their own oral history, that suggest that. Mali is a Muslim country. You understand what I'm saying? The Dogon, right? The Dogon operate. Come true. You come late, bro. You're too late for this convo. You're too late for this convo, bro.
I didn't see it, because you chop all the KK and fish by yourself.
You know what I'm saying? You know, by yourself, and not even come share with the man there. You know what I mean? Supposed to share with the man there.
Chop all the contomre.
Damn devil talk all the way here.
Oh, is it? All right. See that? Yeah.
House of Madness. Yeah, I had to go through it. Yeah.
What were we saying?
But this is the point I'm trying to make, Uncle, because in the sense of the fact that
the Dogon.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah. Let me come to the Dogon for a second. I deal with a quick point. Yeah. Much of what you're saying about the coming of the Arabs into Africa.
Not Arabs, Muslims. No, Arabs didn't come
in. Both. How did they come in?
When did the Arabs come?
How did they come in?
Which Arabs?
In 639.
You're talking about white Africa.
No. Hold on.
You're misleading the people. That's white Africa.
No.
Roman Africa.
No. Understand what I'm saying. You're saying that a lot of
conquest was in the north.
It was in the north, right? But we're talking about the trade, yeah. But I'm saying those people that conquered the north were trading with the West, yeah.
Berbers too.
Yes.
Remember the middlemen.
But we're not denying that.
But we're not denying that. The middlemen were the Tuareg.
But we're not denying that.
The Arabs did not come down.
But at that point, all I'm saying is when you've got a group coming in like that they come from a centralized power point and they begin to have an impact upon the trade.
Yes.
The trade begins to be controlled by them. And therefore being able to facilitate business increasingly becomes reliant upon your ability to accommodate Islam, right? Either via conversion or accommodation. That's the reality. And for the most part, African indigenous systems.
You're half right.
But let me get to the point I'm trying to make, though, yeah. Because when we're dealing with the Europeans, because they didn't just come with guns and boats and cannon, right? The Portuguese were in West Africa from the 1430s.
Yep.
Yeah, and the
Angolans converted voluntarily to Christianity.
Right, exactly.
Voluntarily.
Right? The elite did. Yeah, the elite did, and it causes problems. Right? What's it called? Right, but the point is that they came and they were engaging in all kind of different trade. Yeah, with people in West Africa and Central Africa.
Yes.
As the Spanish came in soon after them. Right. It wasn't until 1492.
The Spanish weren't really in Africa too much.
No, but
small.
You and I both know. But you and I.
Fernando Pond.
Yeah, it was small. I'm not denying that. But you and I know that the Portuguese and the Spanish were in beef over who was going to control the world.
The Treaty of Tordesillas.
So they were in sync with these things. Right. So what I'm saying is, when they first came, they came trading with man. Just what I'm saying, right? So they didn't come with.
But you know the reason why, of course, they were attempting to get to the east.
Well,
They're on their way east.
but they were all.
But they had to stop off. They had to keep stopping.
There's all kinds
they couldn't just go there.
There's all kinds of reasons why. But part of it was because they were coming out of after the Moors came and civilized them. Right? What's it called? They were coming out of their dark ages, so to speak, and they were looking for spice and that kind of different thing. Yeah, it's true that that's the fact. But my only point is that it's not too dissimilar a story. They didn't just come and say convert to Christianity. The missionaries came. Right? And built. And when the white man says, yeah, but we built. No, but the argument is similar.
But you're leaning. You're leaning on the Portuguese. And when I said to you, let's not lean on them. We have agreed that. No, I said.
Uncle,
I said not.
What we're saying is the Europeans. When the Europeans came.
No, but what I said.
Because it was the Portuguese
that
opened the way. No, but we can't forget about them. We can't forget about them. Because if it's the Portuguese and that early interaction that opened the way and paved the way for the Spanish, the British, the French, and all of the rest of them to come in. It was through the trade relationships that the Portuguese had already established. So, and I'm saying that if we're talking, I'm not making the argument that they just came and started grabbing people out of the land. No. The Arabs did, right, and taking them across east. It was a developmental process facilitated by trade relationships that were already developed. Right. So that's one point. The second point is that when we're talking about...
I'm going to challenge that point.
But uncle, that's fine. But when we're talking about hyper-valorization of Islam and the systematic denigration of African culture and spiritual systems, it's done in this context. So I'm not relying on the people them, whether they are Africans who convert to Islam or non-Africans who are Muslim, I'm not relying upon them having superior weaponry. That's not what I'm saying. But
you must rely on it.
But there are examples of it though, in the sense of the fact that, and this is
that's the Ottoman period. That's
well, put it this way.
That was when the Bashawat period in the Nile.
That's true.
That's happened there.
But when the Moroccans invaded Songhai,
well, that was Muslim on Muslim. Huh?
I know.
That's Muslim on Muslim.
I know. But part of
the Battle of Tondibi.
But you would agree with me that the Moroccans considered themselves...
The Moroccan army was basically European. They hired mercenaries.
Initially, yes. In fact, the first brigade, apparently, their language was Spanish. What's it called? But they were also funded by Elizabeth I.
Oh, yeah, we know the
Moroccans.
He was trying to get a trade in saltpeter with her for guns, and then he wanted to marry her. The Sultan Mansour, and she refused
I'm not completely on the marital thing.
Shakespeare even references it in one of his plays. He didn't talk. He alludes to it in one of his plays. Right. Let him go. Let all of my complexion choose me.
But my point is that throughout that period of time now, when it becomes just Africans, one of the things that becomes a battle point is how sophisticated or developed or pure, is your Islam. Usman Dan Fodio.
Yes, we love him.
Right. Right, so you know what I'm saying?
I shall listen to nothing against him.
Indeed. But part of his beef with the Hausa was
the Kanuri hate him.
This is the point.
And the Kanuri
this is the point.
The Kanuri were more Muslim than him.
But he didn't consider them so. When he invaded Hausa, and part of the reason was because Usman didn't consider the Hausa Muslim enough. He felt he had a purer Islam than them, and also the Hausa he felt were subjecting other Muslims to servitude, right? Which he thought was wrong under Islam. So everybody else, you can feel for yourself, but you can't be doing that to your Muslim brother. That's what he was on, right? What's it called, right? Oh, then another one. Ahmed Baba, celebrated scholar,
we love
the most celebrated scholar, of Timbuktu, wrote a document.
I know the document.
On slavery.
We studied the document.
Right.
About who's enslavable and
who's not enslavable. And being Muslim became not being Muslim became a criteria. Right. But not just being not Muslim, but not being Muslim enough. So certain men who are Muslim, but you know what I'm saying, you pour the libation on a Saturday. That's you.
No,
that's you. You're gone.
No, it's not true.
You're subject to it, fam.
No.
It's over for you.
It's not over for you. What's over for you is if you are not a Muslim. But what I didn't like about it, they did it according to nations. So you may have had some Muslims in that nation. They're called the Yoruba Afnu.
Yeah.
They call them Afnu in that text. And he said they are enslavable. Now, in my opinion, so what about the Yorubas who are Muslims?
Who are Muslim?
No, they did do it by nation.
Yeah. But the point is that there were groups that were considered to be Muslim
enslavable
and groups that were considered not to be Muslim.
That's
so the point is that over then you got the Soler people, the Mossi resisted, We mentioned the Dogon already. And even Kanem Bornu, yeah. What's it called? There are because the Kanem people were not Muslim initially. At a point they became Muslim, and then their empire spread.
When did they become Muslim?
I can't remember the year.
It's so long ago they themselves don't know.
I can't remember the year.
If you take a Kanuri person and try to extract Islam from his culture, he will cease to exist.
But we're not going to do that.
They have been Muslim too long. They're not like Yoruba.
Many Africans would have that difficulty if you were to try to take Christianity out as well.
Which one? Which one? Only an Ethiopian.
We've been Christian for 500 years.
Which one? A Zimbabwean? You must be joking. A Zimbabwean? In Nigeria?
Yes.
They have every Igbo man practices African shrine. Every one of them. These guys can exist.
There are Africans who are Muslims who still go to their shrine.
Ethiopian.
It's the truth. You don't know it's the truth. Go Senegal. Right now, go Senegal. Say again?
You can't go to the shrine and maintain that.
You can't do that.
I won't go into the creed.
But the same can be said for being Christian.
No, apart from Ethiopians and Eritreans and maybe Copts.
You and I, but Uncle, you know that Christianity was in Africa before Islam was.
I know that.
Right.
You're singing to the choir.
But this is the point I'm trying to make. So I'm saying. So what I'm saying is.
No, those Christians I say, so I do.
Yeah.
Ethiopians?
And in North Africa. There were Christians in North Africa before Islam came.
They are not around. We just said Copts.
Why are they not around? Because Muslims came.
We have defeated them.
That's the reason why.
We do not love. No, we love. Huh?
In the Coptic, I said,
there's loads of Copts in Egypt. Loads.
And Sudan.
Ghana.
And Ethiopia. That's different.
What we're talking about, let's be serious. I should be taking this a little more seriously. The thing is this. Conquest in Islamic terms was, I tell you what they liked Africans cottoned on to with the Portuguese and the Spanish. The Portuguese and the Spanish had that same mentality like the Arabs.
Yeah.
It's about the mentality. They came and look at them in South America. Look at the amount of poor Spanish settled in Colombia, in Peru, in Cuba, in Dominican Republic, and married with the people mixed, so that you got these Hispanic people, you don't know whether they're white or they're brown.
Yeah.
It is the same when they went to Africa. The other Europeans like the Dutch, the French, and the French for a time in Haiti did elevate their mulatto children. And actually that was part of what the revolution started.
Yeah.
But it's a sidebar. Mostly, those three Europeans, the main traders, the Dutch, the French, and the British, had an attitude that they were superhuman and these were super animals. Blacks were animals. The Portuguese, the Spanish, and the Arabs did not have that mentality. They didn't have that mentality. They would eat the food the people made. Afro-Portuguese children were the beach.
But Uncle, my only point though, I'm
trying to explain to you.
What you described to me.
But
you're agreeing with me. What I'm saying is,
I'm agreeing with you. But when you're discussing history, you have to insert the human factor.
The only point I'm making is that what you talk about in terms of the initial relationship that Africans had with these people is not too dissimilar. Yeah, the same way that because the Portuguese and the Spanish opened the way for the rest of the Europeans.
Not the Spanish, Portuguese.
The Portuguese then, right?
Spanish were in the West.
Yeah, okay. There's a reason why because anyway, that's neither here nor there, right? But I'm saying that but the Europeans didn't just come waging war and kidnapping people and imposing Christianity. They developed relationships and trade, and you have people stay in certain places. They had anthropologists.
They pushed out those guys.
But I'm saying the Europeans. But I'm saying the Europeans, Uncle. That's what I'm saying.
The whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that process that facilitated that thing started a particular way, and I'm saying that what you describe in terms of Islam and the Arabs and so on and so forth is not too dissimilar.
No, it's dissimilar.
Of course there are differences.
It's dissimilar. Arabs never actually came to West Africa.
No, but I'm not saying that they did. What I'm saying is,
they tried. You're saying Portuguese.
And they tried.
When did they try?
They tried. But
Tuareg was there blocking them.
They tried.
Tuareg said stop that.
Why I'm saying they tried is partly because there were a number of attempts to invade Ouagadougou, Ghana Empire. Yeah, they just failed. Yeah, what's it called at the time? All right, until the Tekro people managed to get some headway in. Right, and then after that, the empire never quite recovered.
Black on black,
right?
on
That's
black.
what I'm saying. Yeah, but black on black based upon what? Because as far as I'm anyway, right? Because to me that's neither here nor there.
We discussed this before.
No, but Uncle, it's neither here nor there.
You are trying to present Islam as a foreign religion.
Yeah, I do believe it's a foreign religion.
It's been there longer than many new African religions just invented.
But not in 1066. It was new then. right? And
but you can't talk about 1066 new.
I can.
It's gone.
But
it's
hold
past.
on.
It's vintage.
No, but uncle.
But
But that's not the point. The point I'm making is if you're gonna make an assessment, if you're gonna make an assessment of the African-centered position on Islam, then you have to factor in the fact that when Christians came and told us that we were pagan and savage, etc.
Guns.
Yes, but the Muslim also came.
When? Which one? No, Europeans. You're using race one time, the next time you're using religion. Stick with race. So
Fine.
No, talk about the rest of the other one.
I did say the Christian though. I did say the Christian.
They did.
I did say the Christian.
You said the Europeans came.
No. Just now, I just said the Christian.
The Europeans came.
I did say the Christian, but what I'm saying is, the point.
I shall ask them to roll the tape.
That's fine. And if I'm wrong, I stand corrected, right? But the point I'm making is we're talking about, because I'm defending the African-centered position.
And you must, of course.
Now, what I'm saying is that regardless of what, because it could be gun, it could be bomb, nuclear, atomic, or maniacal, it don't matter. The point is that when you've got a force of people that enter...
Force? Use the word force.
No, a force of people. That's what I'm saying.
Which Muslims force? Which one?
Hey, I'm saying, uncle, let me finish. You'll understand, I promise, yeah? What's it called? That come and tell you that your traditions, your spirituality, are pagan, are of the devil. Yes, of people. Okay. Yes, right? Yes, the force of people, yes.
The Europeans are force.
Military is a force. Trade is a force. Economics is a force. Social organization is a force. Church is a force of people. At the moment, we are a force of people, right? You know what I'm saying?
Can I mention something?
1 second, let me finish, right? What's it called? What I'm saying is that the Afrocentric scholar is defending and challenging that characterization.
I agree.
What they're saying is, so regardless of regardless of whether it was peaceful, regardless of whether it was a gun or a sword.
No, we part company.
No. Hold on.
You can't use the word force and then say even if it was peaceful.
No, you can. I said no. Hold on. Cool.
That's good force.
I didn't just say force. I said a force of people.
Right.
So you can't negotiate anything at all.
No. No.
I want to know how you
for example,
force of people peaceful.
Exactly. It means you can't negotiate at all.
No. I'm not saying it was peaceful, you know. What I'm saying is regardless of whether it was, missionaries are a force of people. The missionaries didn't necessarily come with guns.
They had
Oftentimes,
backup. They had backup if in case of.
So you're telling me
there was a factory.
Uncle.
What was their stop? No, let me tell you, missionaries.
But I don't know why you're divorcing.
No, missionaries did not just come like a European monk with a cassock coming into Africa by himself. They had factories on the coast established. The missionaries, they were attached. No, they were attached to the called factories. The factories were actually where.
Eventually, but no one's disputing
that.
But you're saying that as though caliphates did not have armies.
No.
And people that were sent out to convert masses.
No.
Right. So
it's different.
As though people
No.
You hear what I'm saying?
You got a bit wrong. You were doing very well. You were doing very well.
Uncle, when the Arabs come into North Africa, did they come with armies exclusively?
I like when you use the word Arabs and Africa. It gives the impression that these Arabs attacked all these black people. He means North Africa, white people. Romans.
First of all, it wasn't just
majority of the north of Africa was white.
But let's say,
and Christian with some Jews.
I don't know if I can say the majority, but
the majority of North Africa was Christian.
We've dealt with this.
Some Jews.
But we dealt with this, and I agree with you.
We talk about that.
And I agree with you, right? So we don't need to go over that. What I'm saying is, I'm not making that point at the moment. What I'm saying is, are you making the claim that whoever they were fighting against, that they came with exclusively army personnel, or were there scholars amongst them? Were there imams amongst them? Yeah?
In North Africa?
Yes.
You mean when they were conquering Romanized population speaking Latin?
Yes, uncle.
I'm making that for the camera, lest you
you
mislead them by making them believe Arabs attack Negroes.
Yes, uncle.
I know that's what you're trying to do. You are a very mischievous person, right?
Yes, uncle.
No, of course.
What did they come with?
They had scholars. Even Amr ibn
They had scholars.
They had scholars. They did.
They had imams.
They did. Yes.
And all these kinds of things.
They did. That's quite
right.
true.
So the point is that
were the imams, the imams, the scholars, were they divorced from the armies, or was it often the people in the armies themselves who were the directly to Islam?
Army themselves.
You could. The scholars were in that were in the.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So you hear what he?
It wouldn't have been a force where they send out like a propaganda force and then follow it up with armies.
I'm not.
No, he's not.
I'm not making that argument. What I'm saying is that just as much when you're conquering a people, there are various different
soft power.
That's the point.
There's hard and soft power.
Right.
I get you.
And I'm saying that the soft,
but that
the
applies
soft
to
power
North Africa with the Arabs, not to Black Africa with the Arabs.
No, but we can't make that argument.
Keep hammering that point.
Yeah, no, but we can't make that argument if at the same time we are saying that the trade relationship, based upon the domination in the north, facilitated an economic context that was what's the word? Amenable to the spread of Islam.
Okay, young.
We can't make that point.
Okay, brother.
But I'm also saying,
imagine
but
this.
it wouldn't be so bad, if all of that didn't come with a narrative that denigrated the culture of the people that we're dealing with.
I agree with that.
So when the people convert,
I agree with that.
So when the people now convert, right, even when we're dealing,
they feel they're better now than the rest of non-Muslims.
And that
I agree with you.
And that facilitates what I described. Not self-hate. What I described as systematic.
I've got a question.
I'm coming. But what I'm saying is, what that does is it facilitates what I define as systematic denigration. And I'm saying that when the Afrocentric, and I haven't even got to some of the things that people on your timeline have said that I want to challenge, right? But what's it called? But when the Afrocentric is challenging Islam in that context, they're challenging that characterization, and they're saying that the fact that we have adhered to this characterization of our own culture has meant that we have facilitated our own destruction, politically, economically, and culturally, etc., etc.
They go too far.
Uncle.
They go too far.
Uncle. But you're forgetting when Islam came to Arabia, the Arabs had the same mentality.
It's the same African religion. It's the same African religion.
So when it came, it said your culture is wrong.
No, I'm not disputing that.
So when it comes to Africa,
I wouldn't dispute that. I know of the.
No, what he's talking
about. The Arabs as well.
Not only
the culture.
Okay, so let me. All right, so he's discussing.
So it's not Arabs saying we are superior
because
we are Arab.
Okay, there's a major difference. There's a major difference in what you're saying. There's a major difference.
Come back to me. No, we got you. Yeah, I don't. If it starts to rain, I will have to leave.
That's fine.
Let's go quickly. Now listen to this. Now listen. Check. Oh y'all, the camera's here.
The way it's manifest with the Arabs is different with the way.
All right, y'all. Okay, y'all, check it out. Check it out.
But he's complaining like when
the difference.
But we are.
Islam said to African, your identity, your culture.
I think he's more arguing about Arabs. He's more arguing about the Arabs bringing how the Arabs brought Islam and the Arabs made out like African culture or the Arabs denigrated African culture, placing Islam, not Islam itself.
Arabs. But Islam told the same Arabs.
You're focusing on the Islam. He's not focusing on the deen. He's focusing on the people carrying it. So that's
and then I'm saying, what I'm saying is that when we, as African people now, adopted the religion, therefore we adopted that mentality in relation to our thing as well. So all I'm saying is, it would if it never came with that characterization, the Afrocentric scholar would have had no problems in that regard. But the fact of the matter is that it did. Right, and so if you are now an African-centered scholar, validating things that are African, saying no, this characterization that the Europeans imposed upon us is false, and you discover that the Arabs came with the same characterization, and Africans, just like we did in Christianity, Africans in Islam and Christianity.
False parallel.
Can you go into specifics?
It's a false parallel.
Can you go into specifics?
We keep going. But let me, before the brother interrupted.
It's a false parallel.
Hold on. Before the brother interrupted, you made a point that I need to address.
Go ahead.
Now, one of the mistakes I think we make is speaking about an African culture instead of African cultures. I think we need to look at Africa not as a monolith. When you talk about the Islam destroying African culture, what you are talking about is if you take people like the Nilo-Saharans who always believed in one God, or the Hamites, like the Kushites, like the Somali, the Afar, the Oromo, they always never represented God in forms of statuary, and they've always believed in an invisible one God. Now, what I'm saying is, whereas on the other side of the water, as the brother just said, in the Arabian Peninsula, they believed in God, or traditional spirituality in the way the Africans did. So what you have is some Africans whose religion resembles what the Arabians of the Peninsula were practicing, whereas you have some Africans in Africa, long before Islam, believing in one God the way the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ believed.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Yeah,
And I think you're
I am
overstating
very
the point.
conversant with Dinka culture.
No.
You said you're not Den. Den didn't know his culture.
yeah.
He didn't know his culture. He was born a Muslim. He was a Hafiz.
Astaghfirullah.
Astaghfirullah. أقول لك يا أخي.
Alhamdulillah.
No, the guy, he likes the quarter brother. He likes the quarter brother called Denga Jack.
Yeah.
Denga Jack is a Dinka who was born in South Abbasiya, Omdurman, under the name of Muhammad Hassan Kabsoon. I am a friend to the family. He was a Hafiz of Quran who taught me Quran before he apostatized. He apostatized because his family. No, no, I have friends who are going to get upset with me from the Dinka community.
Cool.
I'm making a point now because I got friends in the Dinka community who are going to get upset. They put pressure on him to say a Dinka and Islam are mutually incompatible because those Jalaba, those Arabs had come south during the Ottoman period and destroyed our culture, took your grandfather as a slave to Omdurman, and that is why you are a Muslim.
So what you're saying to me, Uncle, is that the Muslims who were in Sudan didn't regard the Dinka Tawheed as any more of God or of Allah or halal.
They were walking around naked. They were walking around naked and they couldn't reconcile that civilization.
But I get your distinction.
But they're very wrong to do that too.
Contrary to popular belief, the Afrocentric perspective is not that there is one exclusively monolithic spiritual system in Africa. The Afrocentric scholarship.
But they like to think that Ifa is the prototype.
No.
They have a belief. They like to go around as if Ifa is the prototype.
With all due respect, Ifa
or Vodum, Ifa and Vodum, they like those two.
Ifa comes to the forefront for two reasons.
We know.
One,
urban civilization.
What's it called? One, for the first one is that as far as codified system, there is an argument that it's the most developed.
They were a settled civilization with cities, big cities.
But the other reason is because of its proliferation in the Americas, right? That's the reason why. Yeah. So there's reasons for that. So Ifa becomes an archetype for understanding.
What the Afrocentrics do. I'm not speaking about the intellectuals like yourself. I'm speaking about the people who think they.
I appreciate
the people who dare to criticize me. I'm talking about. The Hoteps. They come up with foolishness and assume that African religion is what the Vodou of Haiti or the Candomblé people of Brazil do. Now, African religion, if you go to the Dinka, the Nuer, the Shuluk, that is unrecognizable to them. They don't identify with that. You have Africans who don't even beat drums. You have African countries who don't have drums.
I like to know which African don't lick drum. Like that's a very.
The Dinka.
It's a very.
The Dinka.
There's drums in Sudan. No.
No. The Dinka.
But the drum.
You see,
come on now.
You know book, but you ain't no chapter.
The drum.
I can see you know book, but you ain't no chapter. I can see what's going on here. I see what's going on there. I see what's up there. Let me tell you. Even Rwanda, even the Tutsi only have one drum.
But they have a drum. There are times when the God people have periods of complete silence when no drumming is allowed. The point is that it to me
that's a sidebar.
Yeah, it's a very much a sidebar. The point because I'm going to agree.
I'm saying that there's a variety of
there are a variety of traditions.
There's a number of ways of being
the Afrocentric scholar only makes the argument that there are commonalities. And a shared philosophical foundation. That's the only argument that is made. However, it matters not because none of these traditions were considered as any better than the other when the Europeans and the Christian Europeans and the Arab Muslims came. They didn't say, well, the Dinka worship one God, so let's leave them alone, let them do them thing. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what they said.
They found the Dinka
everything was haram.
No, they found the Dinka to be naked. They found
what was perceived as worship would have been the aspect of the culture to haram.
This is the point I make.
So that's the point where they would have, or they should have, dealt away with, not the whole thing, not change man's food from fufu and kontonome to biryani or whatever. That the people can retain. Right? It's the actual
Right.
The theocracy.
Yes.
Yeah, within the two systems.
Yes.
Which is what's being challenged.
Right.
Yeah, and as Abrahamics.
Yes.
Abrahamics will always say, if they are
Yes.
true believers in their thing.
Yes.
Yeah, my belief is better than yours.
I agree with that.
It's inevitable.
I agree.
If we say, you know, if that person would be deemed if someone came in and said, you know what, you see your voodoo
Yes.
and our Islam, you
Yes.
know they're saying,
Yes.
he get tossed into the same
As they would
fire
do
too.
today. Like,
Yeah.